This is April 30th, I think, 1970.
My fellow Americans, we live in an age of anarchy, both abroad and at home. We see mindless attacks on all the great institutions which have been created by free civilizations in the last 500 years. Even here in the United States, great universities are being systematically destroyed. Small nations all over the world find themselves under attack from within and from without. If, when the chips are down, the world's most powerful nation, the United States of America, acts like a pitiful, helpless giant, the forces of totalitarianism and anarchy will threaten free nations and free institutions throughout the world.
Yeah, let me tell you, that's April 30th. I guess I was called into the president had the Oval Office and the office next to it, but he would go across the street to the executive office building where there was a huge office deep in there, right underneath the vice president's. And he called me in there, and he said, we're going into Cambodia with ground troops. And he said, Henry sent me a draft, and he didn't like it. And he said, I've got some, Henry Kissinger, I'm sorry. And so he said, I've got some notes here, and here's what I want you, and so I started taking notes from what he said, and then he would say, and take this paragraph and put it in there. So you're taking all this, about 12 pages of this. And he said, now go back and in about 2 or 3 hours, give me a draft. And then during the course of this, he said, we're not just going to go into the fish hook and the parrot's beak. We're going into all 8 sanctuaries. And so I said, all 8? And he said, yeah. And I said, he said, we're already bombing them. And I said, you're bombing them? Sir, they're going to know we're coming. And he said, don't worry about that, Pat. We've been bombing them for a long time. And that's where I found out about the Cambodia bombing.
Well, I'm for almost a year.
So I went back to the office, and I got working on it. My secretary was writing real fast because we didn't have those computers and things. She was writing fast, and then so I got the draft, and I took it down to him, and I, of course, had copies of it, and he said, don't show it to anybody. And so this is bad news, Henry might be interested. So I went up and went swimming at the university club, and then they didn't have bathing suits, it was all men. So I'm paddling along in the university club, and someone comes down to the pool. Mr. Buchanan, the White House is on the phone. So I go up there, stark naked, I pick up the phone and I hear, there is the speech. It is Henry Kissinger. I said, Henry, I'm sorry, the old man said to give it to him, and that was it. And so that speech, though, what happened in the aftermath, of course, it was an enormous firestorm created, and I had a sort of arthritis problem, so I went home. About 3 days later, and my buddy Mort Allen, who ran the press summary, called me up.
A friend.
And he said, 4 kids were killed, 9 wounded at Kent State. And I said, where's Kent State? And country exploded.